Hi guys, and welcome to today's lesson on 8.2. Today we're going to talk about how you distribute and factor out a GCF, or what that's called is a greatest common factor. Our essential question today is, what is factored form? Again, like always, if you feel the need to pause the video, feel free to do so and catch up when you are ready. So getting started here. 8.2, multiplying a monomial by a polynomial, right? Some new vocab terms from last section there. When multiplying variables, exponents change, so right, that's a key thing to remember. Adding or subtracting terms, variables stay the same. Do numbers and variables separately. So those are some good steps to write down as we do this problem here. So we look here, what we are going to do, we're going to distribute this whole term to all three of these. So I'm going to write out what that looks like. It's 4x squared times 3x to the third plus 4x squared times negative 2x squared plus 4x squared times 8. So what we're going to do here is we're going to multiply those numbers out in front first. So right, 4 times 3 is going to give us 12. Now, right, we have x and x. We have the same base. These powers, we're going to add those exponents. We're going to add those exponents. That's how it changes. So now it's going to be x to the fifth. Now we're going to add over here. So now we have 4 times negative 2 gets us negative 8. X squared times x squared, 2 plus 2 gets us x to the fourth. And last one here, 4 times 8 gets us 32. Notice there's no other x terms, so we just bring down what we have. And so by multiplying here, we should have got an answer of 12x to the fifth minus, or you can do plus and negative, minus 8x to the fourth plus 32x squared. So we got another example here. I'd like you to do, pause the video, try this one first, then restart it and see if you got it correct. So looking at this one again, we distribute this to each term. I'm going to look numerically first. 6 times 2 gets us 12. Now we have x squared, x to the third, where we add those exponents, we get x to the fifth. Now we have 6 times 7, so we get 42. We have x squared, we have no x term over here, so we just bring that down with us. And so your final answer should be 12x to the fifth plus 42x squared. So now that vocab word we talked about, a GCF, or what we call a greatest common factor. First, we look for two different things. First, what number can all the coefficients be divided by? And then two, are there any variables that all terms can be divided by? So we're first going to start off with numerical values. So again, we're going to bring it up. If you need a pause to write those values down, please do. So GCF of 12, 18, and 6. Notice we only have numerical values. We just got to think, what can all three of those be divided by? The greatest common factor would be 6 in this case. So now let's do the same thing. Let's look at the numerical values here, right? 12, 6, 9. They're all divisible by 3, right? That's the largest or greatest common factor. And now I want us to look at the x values. Right? We have x squared, we have x, and we have x to the fifth. We're trying to take as much out of it as we can, but we can't take more than what is there. So right, if we look here, we can take one x out. Right now this one is gone, this is down to 1, this is down to 4. Right, we don't have any left on that middle one, so we can't take any more. So our GCF in this case is 3x. Now sometimes you might have some that have variables, some that don't. Right? If you notice here numerically, right, all of those are divisible by 4. And now we look here, right, we have an x squared term. But since there are no x's, not even a single one on either of the other terms, there's nothing we can take out. And so that is our greatest common factor. There's just 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this idea to help us divide things, take something out of it. And so what we call that is factoring. Factoring. So factoring out a greatest common factor, it's the opposite of multiplying. We have these 3 steps here. Step 1, you're going to find the GCF, divide each term by the GCF, and then write your answer. So write those steps down, make sure we do that. We'll do this first one together. So I'm going to look here. I have 8 and 4. Right, both of those are divisible by 4, so we know that's going to be part of our GCF. Is there anything else? Or we got to think to ourselves, is there anything else we can divide those both by? No, there's no variable, so that's all we can take. So now we think to ourselves, okay, I got to divide 8b by 4. We do that, we're left with 2b. Now I have to divide negative 4 by 4. If I do that, we get negative 1. And we have now factored out our GCF. Factored out our GCF. So let's try one more over here. Look at our numerical values first. Right, our greatest common factor numerically is 6. Right, they're all divisible by 6. And now we look to see, really what you're looking for is what is our lowest x value? Well, we have x to the third, x to the second, x to the first. So the most we can take out is 1x. So now what we need to do, we have our GCF out here, and we need to think, what do we have left over? If I take 6x to the third and now divide it by 6x, right, we get left with just 1. And then we have x to the third over x, right? We can use our math skills from last chapter. We know we take top minus the bottom. If we take 3 minus 1, we get left with x squared. Okay, let's try it for our next term. We have 12 over 6, which is going to give us 2. And then we take our exponents. We have 2 x's on top, 1 on bottom. 2 minus 1 gets us 1. Excuse me. Last one here. Divide this by 6x. 18 divided by 6 is 3. Notice those x's just cancel out. And so this right here is our final answer. Final answer, factoring out a GCF. So we're going to work through some examples here. What is the GCF of this binomial? I'd love you to pause the video here, restart it up, and see if you got it correct. So we look at those 2 terms, right? They're both divisible by 2. And we look to see what's our lowest a value, or realistically, what's the most we can take out. And it would be 2a. 2a would be our GCF for this problem. Okay, moving forward here. What about something like this, right? It looks a little more complex. We got x squareds, we got y's, things like that. So what we're going to do first, we're going to look numerically. All of those are divisible by 3. So we know we can take a 3 out. Now we look at these terms here. Notice we have at least 1 x in every single one, so we can take an x out. We check to see, do we have at least 2? No, right? The last one we don't have 2, so we can't do that. Now we look at y's. Right? We have a y in the first one, y in the second one, but we don't have any in the third, so we can't take it out. So our GCF is 3x. So now what I want you to do is try to factor out 3x from each of those terms. Well, if we do that, right, 21 divided by 3 gives us 7. X to the third over x to the first, 3 minus 1 would give us x squared. And then don't forget about your y. Don't forget about your y there. Okay, on to the next one here. Same process. 3 divided by 3 is 1. X to the second over x to the first. 2 minus 1 would just leave us with 1x. And now again, do not forget your y. And the last one here, be careful with the negative. Negative 9 divided by 3 would be negative 3. And those x's cancel out. And so our final answer is right there. Final answer. So 2 more problems to work through here. So we have this. Let's start again with our numerical values. Right? They're all divisible by 5. Right? Sometimes you want to look at that and say 10, but right, 15 is not divisible by 10. So 5 is the most we can take out. And then we need to think, how many x's can I truly take out? Well, I have 3 here, 2 here, and 4 there. So the most that we can take out is x to the second. Right? You're trying to take the greatest amount you can out. So if we do this, now we're going to divide each term. Right? 20x to the third divided by 5x squared. I'm going to go through this one a little quicker. We get 4x. 15x squared divided by 5x squared is 3. And then 10x to the fourth divided by 5x squared is 2x squared. So now we have our answer here. This is a correct answer. But what we really want is we always want to put answers in standard form. Right? Thinking back to last section 8.1, right? Standard form would look like this. 5x squared times, we take our highest power, then our next one, and now we end with our constant. This would be a great final answer for this problem. Last one here. This is a level 4 problem, right? Tricky one here. What I'd like you to do, pause the video, see if you can do this one by yourself, right? See if you can do it by yourself, and then I am going to talk through the video. So please pause it, start it whenever you are ready. So we look here first numerically, right? All of those are divisible by 9. 9 is the greatest common factor we can take out. We look at our x values. The most we can take out is x squared. We look at our y values. The most we can take out is y to the first. So we have found our GCF. Found our GCF. And now if we divide 45 by 9, we get 5. X to the third divided by x squared, we're left with 1x. Y squared divided by y, we're left with a y. If we take 36x squared y divided by 9x squared y, notice we're just going to be left with 4. And our last one here, we are left with 2y squared. So that would be our final answer. So that is it for today's lesson on 8.2, where we are distributing and factoring out a greatest common factor.